Do I need to join another reading challenge this year? No! Am I going to anyway? Yes. Hello and welcome to the Ellen Made Book Club. Today I'm going to be talking through my TBR for Our Fantasy 2026. I have seen the Our Fantasy bingo around previous years, but I didn't really think it was anything for me because I don't read a ton in those genres. But this year I wanted to play along, in part to sort of balance out the more serious reads that I am picking up for other challenges, and just, you know, to have some more fun. And I do love a bingo, so if you're not familiar with the challenge, it's hosted on Reddit, and every year they put up a bingo on April 1st, and then you have a year to fulfill that, and you need to pick one book per prompt, so in total 25 books if you want to go for a blackout board, which I am aiming for, I guess. And there's hard mode for most of the prompts, where it's like a little bit of an extra challenge. I'm not going to aim for hard mode, but like some of the books that I read might accidentally fulfill it. But like this is a hard enough challenge for me. But I will put up a little check mark or something on the screen for the books that fit hard mode, so that if you're interested, you know that information. I'm going to prioritize books that I own or books that I can get on BookBeat, which is the audiobook app that I subscribe to, or books that I can get from my library. There are a few books that I have ordered. There are books that I have been wanting to read, and then they sort of fit a prompt on this challenge, and so I figured that's my sign to buy them. But things might change as I go along, and I'm not going to force my way through any of the books if I don't like them. And I'm also not sure if all of the books that I have picked out will fit the prompt. So, you know, if I need to switch things up throughout the year, I definitely will. And if I do, I will keep you updated in wrap-ups, or if I do vlogs for this challenge, I'm not really sure yet. One step at a time. You're also allowed to swap one prompt on this bingo board for one on a previous bingo board. And I haven't decided yet which of the prompts I'm gonna swap out, but I do have books that I want to read this year that are in the speculative genres that I haven't been able to fit into a prompt on the bingo board right now. So I have those, like, you know, in my sleeve or whatever to swap in if I need to. I think that's all of my preamble, disclaimer, introduction stuff. So let's get into the TBR. The first prompt is to read a book with a trans or non-binary protagonist that is not an alien or a robot. And for this one, I'm thinking Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas. This book has been on my want to read list for a while now, and this would be the perfect excuse to pick it up. I know that Kat at Curious Cat read this and loved it, and I think that she picked the sequel for this prompt that is coming out later this year. She also made a video about Our Fantasy TBR, so I will have that linked in the description, as well as some other people's TBR videos if you want more of these, because I have been watching a lot and they're so much fun. Cemetery Boys is going to be my first choice, and this is a young adult fantasy. The second book is to judge a book by its title. I have several options for this one. One that caught my eye as I was scrolling online was The Adventures of the Demonic Ox, which I think is a fantastic title. I don't think I'm going to be reading that. Some other options that I have picked out are Everything You Ever Wanted by Louisa Sauma, A Short Stay in Hell by Stephen L. Peck. I also have My Throat an Open Grave by Tori Bovalino. Yeah, the title definitely drew me into this book and made me remember it, so I think that's a good choice for this one. Another option is There Is No Anti-Memetics Division by Quantum, and I'm gonna have that from the library in a couple of days, so hopefully I can get to it then, and you know, maybe then I'll count that. I think the one that I'm gonna put on my bingo board is My Throat an Open Grave, just because I've had it on my TBR for longer, and I think it's a title that makes me very curious. The next prompt is to read a translated book, and I have several options for this on my bingo board and as backups, so this might change, but the one that I have picked as my first choice is going to be The Mark by Frida Isberg. This is translated from the Icelandic by Larissa Kaiser. This is a speculative dystopian novel about a sensitivity assessment that measures a person's empathy and identifies their potential for antisocial behavior. Some believe the test makes society safer, others decry it as a violation, but is that just because all they stand to lose? I think those things sound very interesting. So yeah, I'm really hoping to get to this one. The next prompt is small press or self-published. And for this one, I'm going to go with Dive Beyond Eternity by Valeria Salt. This is published by Northodox Press, which originally also published The Mare by Anchoret, Hampshire, which was one of my favorite books the year I read it and one of my favorite books of all time. And so if that's any indication, I will love this one as well. And this one also deals with the Second World War in some aspects, but this is speculative science fiction. It says, in the bleak North Sea, historian Sarah Rose discovers a German U-boat hosting a Nazi superweapon capable of transporting people through time. I think this one could also work for the next prompt, which is unusual transportation. I don't think that U-boats are typically used as time travel devices, even in science fiction. So, you know, maybe that could be an option for you. And last time I checked, this one had 5 reviews on Goodreads, so definitely needs some more readers. And yeah, I'm really excited to try this one. But my first choice for the unusual transportation prompt is going to be A Winter's Promise by Christelle Davos, which is a French fantasy series in 4 books, I think. And this is the first one. And this is also a recommendation from Kat at Curious Cat. She loves this series and I'm very curious about it, so I figured this would be a good reason to pick it up. The unusual transportation in this case would be mirrors. It's called the Mirror Visitor series, I think, and so they can travel between different island places that are sort of floating in space through mirrors, or like some people can. That's my very vague understanding of it. And there's also some like magic with objects, if I remember correctly. So yeah, that one sounds very intriguing to me, and yeah, it fits the prompt, I think. The next prompt is the afterlife, and this can mean that the book is set in the afterlife or there's communication with the dead. And for this one, I also have a couple of different options. My first choice would be The Delusions by Jenny Fagan. This is about a person who is working in the, like as a receptionist or something in the afterlife, and then there's like a mass extinction on Earth, and so it gets very crowded. I think that's a little bit more literary, but still, you know, sci-fi-esque. My other option is A Short Stay in Hell by Stephen L. Peck. I have been meaning to get to this for the longest time, and it's so short, and I think that I'm gonna try to fit this in somewhere on the board, and you know, it would fit here. So I think this is my first choice. This is about a Mormon man who dies and ends up in a library where he has to find his life story in a book. Yeah, I think that sounds very intriguing and also kind of creepy. It's said to be haunting and existential, and that sounds like something I would enjoy. So yeah, very much looking forward to this one. Next prompt is Game Changer, and I think that this is my reason to finally pick up The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. I have never read these, and I think I've only seen the first movie, and even that I like remember pretty vaguely. I know there's like all the colorful costumes, and then they're like in some kind of a forest area trying to survive and competing. Everybody loves this one, and hopefully I will too. The next prompt is Vacation Spot, and I have interpreted this a little bit differently depending on which book I pick up. One of the options I have is Under the Eye of the Big Bird by Hiromi Kawakami. This is translated from the Japanese by Asa Yoneda, and I don't think this necessarily is a vacation spot I would prefer in terms of like the setting, but Japan as a country I would love to visit, so that's why that's an option. And this is like dystopian science fiction or like the end of the world kind of thing, I think. Another option is Mother of Rome by Lauren Baer, which is a myth retelling about the brothers Romulus and Remus and their mother and the creation of Rome. And I've been curious about that one for a while now, and I have been to Rome, but I would love to go there again, and to Italy in general. And then my third option is The Hounding by Senna B. Purvis, which is a book that I am also very much looking forward to reading. I'm not sure how speculative that is, but I think it's fantasy, horror, esque, and it is set in England, and I would love to go to England as well. I have been there before. I've been to London, but I would love to go to more of the countryside in the UK in general. And yeah, I just think the cover looks very nice. The Hounding is the one that I am the most excited to read this year, so I'm putting that on the bingo board, and then we'll see if I need to swap it out. The next prompt is to read 5 short stories, and I am in the middle of a short story collection that I feel like has been going on forever, but I am about halfway through White Cat, Black Dog by Kelly Link. I have 3 stories left to go. So I am going to read those for this prompt. And these are sort of speculative fantasy horror-esque retellings of fairy tales with a modern twist. I have enjoyed some so far and others not so much. And then I will need to read 2 more short stories. One of the ones that I do want to read is Mestra by Madeline Miller, which is coming out later this year. I don't know what it's about, but it's Madeline Miller. I have loved Circe and The Song of Achilles and Galatea by her, and so I'm going to read this short story as well and count it for this prompt. And if you need a short story, Galatea would definitely fit. And then I'm going to need a 5th short story, and I'm not sure what that's going to be yet. I do have a couple of options. I still haven't read Never Whistle at Night, which is an anthology of short stories by Indigenous authors. And I also have Beyond the Glittering World, which I think is also a collection of short stories by Indigenous authors, but maybe not as much horror. An anthology of Indigenous feminisms and futurisms. And I feel like that could be a good fit for me. And either way, I would just need to read one of the short stories for it to count for this prompt. So I feel like that's, you know, a good option. And then I'll have some variety. The next prompt is Older Protagonist, where the story features a main character who is at least 50 years old, and for hard mode, the protagonist does not have exceptional longevity or immortality. I have a few different options, and some fit for hard mode and some don't. One is The Myers by Tina McAreddy, which is a New Zealand author book story, and it's about 3 mothers who all give birth, I think, and then there's Myers, which someone is drawn to, and there's also something about someone sort of coming back home a skinhead or something. That just sounds really interesting to me, and I think that has like fantasy elements to it. And then I have The Fountain by Casey Sieska, which is definitely with exceptional longevity. This is a woman who has lived for like 180 years or something, but she's stuck at like 24 years of age. So she's been 24 years for a really long time, or, you know, in her 20s. So she's not an old person, but she has lived for a long time. So I don't know how to... Anyways, she feels like she has lived for long enough, and so she wants to end this condition of hers, and she goes back to her hometown or something where this curse or condition has come from, and she also meets her brother, but he is with a woman who looks exactly like her, and he also has like exceptionally long life, and she like poses as some kind of a forest ranger. It all sounds very intriguing to me. So that's one of my first choices for this one to try as well. And then, yeah, I have some other backup options, but we'll see which one I end up reading. On the 3rd row, the first and last prompt is Duology Part 1 and 2. And I am not in the middle of a lot of duologies like some people are. The only one I think that I have started is the Shepherd King duology with One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns. And I was going to read Two Twisted Crowns last year, and I just never wanted to, so I don't think that's a good option for this either. Some other options that I have are the Raybearer duology by Jordan Ifueko, A Psalm for the Wild Build by Becky Chambers, Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, or The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. I think those have very different vibes, and it's gonna depend on what I'm in the mood for. A Psalm for the Wild-Willed is short. The Raybearer duology is intriguing to me because I have read The Maid and the Crocodile and enjoyed that. Six of Crows I keep hearing fantastic things about as well, and The Handmaid's Tale has been on my TBR for forever. Any of these would be great picks, and then it's just a matter of which one I want to continue and read the second part in. The next prompt is to read a book that has been a part of the Our Fantasy Book Club or read along or any of the past ones. I'm not going to participate in an active one, I don't think. So I scrolled through the list of past books and found two that I have on my TBR and that I want to read. The first one is Every Version of You by Grace Chan, which is speculative fiction set in Australia, and there's a mind thing called Gaia where you upload your mind and you live virtually. And yeah, there's some other things in there too. Another book was Blood Over Bright Haven by M.L. Wang. And yeah, I've just heard a lot of good things about this one. It's a standalone fantasy, so that is appealing to me as well because I don't want to start a bunch of series that I'm never going to finish. And yeah, I'm new to the fantasy genre in general, or like trying to figure out what I like. So standalones are a good way to go. This has a University of Magics and Industry, and there's something about a typewriter, and I don't know, I just like the cover. It has gold on it, and I've heard good things. Hopefully I will get to and enjoy either one of these. In the middle of the bingo board, we have published in 2026, and I have several options for this as well on the board. So if the book that I have picked doesn't qualify for this, I have backup options. But the book that I am tentatively going with is Yesteryear by Caro Claire Burke. I have started this and there is a sort of time travel element. I'm not sure if that's actually what's happened. It's a woman who is like a tradwife influencer and has been swooped back to the 1800s, and like, how did that happen? So I think it could count for this bingo, and if not, like I said, I have a couple of other options, and I'm sure that I will have plenty of options before the year is over. The next prompt is Explorers and Rangers, so a character who travels to and investigates an unfamiliar region, or a wilderness and forest-oriented warrior, frequently specializing in things like stealth, bows, tracking, and other hunting-relating skills. I've been wanting to try Jennifer Saint as an author for the longest time, and I think that her book Atalanta could fit for this. She has a bow on the cover and everything. I think she is a huntress, and she is one of the Argonauts, and they go around exploring. So I think this could definitely count for this prompt, and it gives me a reason to finally read this book. I don't know much more about the story itself other than it's Greek mythology, and that's fun. Moving on to the prompt one-word title, I have two options for this so far. The first one is Rouge by Mona Awad. I loved Bunny by this author, and I'm very keen to try more of her books, and this is the one that I own, so I figured I would start with this one. It's also the only one with a one-word title, I think. This is about Belle, who has been obsessed with her skin and skincare videos, and then her estranged mother, Noelle, mysteriously dies, and Belle finds herself back in California, dealing with her mother's debts and grappling with lingering questions about her death. And then there's some kind of dark humor and horror aspect to the story. Another option is a bit more cozy, and that is Disenchanted, which is by Lucy Jane Wood. Comes out this fall. I have enjoyed her previous books, Rewitched and Uncharmed. They are separate stories about different characters, but they're all set within the same universe, which is like a 90s UK, where there are witches, and they all have a touch of like mental health, self-care. They're very like gentle and uplifting and positive, and so I think I need some of that in my reading life. I don't really read a lot of cozy fiction at all, but so far these have been very like feel-good reads for me, and so I'm hoping that will continue with the third book as well. The next prompt is to read a book with a non-human protagonist, and I have a few different options for this one. One is The Axeman's Carnival by Catherine Chidgey. This has a magpie as the hero of the story or the narrator, I think. I'm not sure if this is like speculative, apart from the fact that we're hearing a magpie telling the story or acting in the story. I'm not really sure. We hop through the depths of toxic masculinity, environmental collapse, the perils of anthropomorphism, and the dark side of social media. So like, I'm not sure how much speculativeness there is in this, but on the other hand, the Book of Guilt by the same author was very speculative, and so I don't know, this might be an option, but it's not my first pick. Another option is 3 Bags Full by Leonie Swan, translated by Anthea Bell from the German, I think. And this is a murder mystery where the detectives are sheep. But I'm thinking I am going to want to use this for the murder mystery prompt that comes up in a second. And so then my first choice is The Last Unicorn by Peter S. Beagle, which has been on my TBR for a long time as well. And I think it's time I finally get to it. And from what I understand, the main character is a unicorn, and so that would fit the prompt perfectly. If I don't use it for this prompt, I might use it for the next prompt, which is to read a middle grade book. But I'm hoping to read Mio min Mio by Astrid Lindgren for that prompt. I think the English title for this is Mio, My Son. And I have never read this. I've read other books by this author and loved them. I have every reason to believe I will love this as well. And even if I don't, it's pretty short, and I want to have read this because it's one of the books that I haven't read by this author, and she's fantastic. So yeah, this is my pick for middle grade. The next prompt is First Contact, and this is one that I have struggled with a bit. I feel like the easy choice for First Contact is space and aliens and, you know, aliens coming to Earth and whatnot. That just doesn't really interest me, and so I was trying to find other kinds of species that meet for the first time. So one of my options is Alice Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll, because, you know, Alice meets a bunch of different people and creatures in this story, and so I figured that's maybe the first time, and so that's First Contact, and so maybe that can count. My other option is a book that I am a lot more intrigued by and that I think is more like clearly 2 different species. I'm just not sure if it qualifies for First Contact, but this is The Shadows Tomorrow by Noël Michel, which is translated from the French, and I just think it sounds very fascinating. This is set in the near future where the Neanderthal race has been recreated from fragments of DNA and reintroduced on a nature reserve where they are observed and studied, ultimately becoming the subjects of a hit documentary series. And then we follow different characters across time. There's a leader of the Neanderthal clan, and I don't know, some scientists and a teenager, and then also like the man behind the project, but is he sapien or Neanderthal? I think this sounds so weird, and hopefully there's, you know, some kind of First Contact in there where the species meet. This is my first pick, and then we'll see if I need to switch it out. But yeah, I'm very intrigued by this one. And then we're at the prompt Murder Mystery, and for this one, like I mentioned, I have picked out 3 Bags Full by Leonie Swan, where the farmer has been murdered and the sheep are trying to figure out what happened. This sounds fun and cozy and has been very highly recommended by Leandra, the TBR Zero. And so I'm looking forward to this one. I think it makes for a good variety on my bingo board, with some cozy stuff, some silly fun stuff, and some dark speculative stuff. So yeah, this is one that I'm definitely hoping to get to. The final row on the bingo board starts with Cat Squasher, which is to read a book that is at least 500 pages. And for this one, I have 2 options, and I'm going to read one of them. The first one is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This is loved by many. I've been wanting to try this author for a long time, and so this would be the perfect opportunity to do so. This is about 540 pages. My other option is Hours by Philip B. Williams, which I have been trying to read now for almost 2 years, I think, and it's stupid. I just want to read it because I was intrigued and I bought it and I started it and I liked it, and then I put it down and then I started it and I liked it again and I also put it down, and I'm just intimidated by the size of it and the writing of it, and I don't even know what the problem is, but I want to read it. And it is a historical fantasy horror book, and this is about 570 pages or so. This is my second option, and I will be reading one of these within a year. I need to prove to myself that I can. And then for the next prompt, which is feast your eyes on this, which is to read a book where food or a meal is important in some way, I decided to go with a really short book, Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson. I think this is horror, maybe young adult, I'm not really sure. There are two women and one of them sells soap and cupcakes and candles and honey and plants. And so there's food in there, and I figure that's significant for the story because I think that's how they meet. And then there's some kind of a love story turned weird, dark, creepy. I don't know if there's another meal involved in this. I hope not, but we will see. And this is my pick for feast your eyes on this. The next prompt is to read a book published in the 70s, and I thought I was going to struggle a lot with this one because I don't read a lot of books from that era, never mind, fantasy or science fiction. But I found one that I really want to read, so that worked out. The book I want to read is A Scanner Darkly by Philip K. Dick. I've seen the movie and I love it, and I've been wanting to read the book ever since. And I have read another book by the same author, The Man in the High Castle. I don't want to read this right now. But I am still very intrigued to read A Scanner Darkly. So that's the one that I have picked for this prompt. And then there are only two prompts left. The first one is politics and court intrigue. Politics are central to the story's plot. This covers anything from royalty, elections, and wars to smaller local politics. And for this one, my first choice is The Hymn to Dionysus by Natasha Pulley. This is another author that I have been wanting to try for the longest time. And, I think she writes a lot of different genres, or like within, the speculative genre range. And this is a mythological retelling about Dionysus, who is the god of wine and other things. So I think this could also work for the food prompt, the feast your eyes on this prompt, because of the wine. But I figured I would put this on the politics and court intrigue because there's something about a marriage and the queen wanting her prince to marry someone and the prince doesn't want to marry that person. I don't know, there's something about that, and so I figured that would count. My other option is Masquerade by O.O. Sangoyomi, which I also really want to read, but I think that The Hymn to Dionysus would be a bit more easy for me to get into, and just more likely that I finish. So I'm trying to play it a bit more safe and not have too many challenging reads on this bingo board to keep it a bit more lighthearted and fun, because I already have some challenging reads for this bingo and for other reading challenges that I'm doing. And also I think the next prompt might include a book that is going to be challenging in some way, and that is to read a book written by an author of color, and I have lots of options for this. My top two choices are The Witch by Marie Ndaye, who I think is a French author, and there's something about a witch and there's magic, and I think her children get the witch gene, or like the magic gene, and then they cry blood, and then I don't know what happens, but I'm very intrigued. This was nominated for the International Booker Prize this year, and that's how I learned about it. And I think it fits this bingo, so that would be a perfect storm. And then my other option is Sky Full of Elephants by Sibo Campbell, which I think is like speculative literary fiction, magical realism, something along those lines. It says, in a world without white people, what does it mean to be black? One day, a cataclysmic event occurs. All of the white people in America walk into the nearest body of water. that's intriguing and I would like to read that. And then I also have other options that could fit on here. So Masquerade, Raybearer, Immaculate Conception, The Dream Hotel, or Catherine House could all fit for this prompt. And lots of other books. Some of the prompts that I feel like I might switch if I don't like the book that I have picked, or if that book doesn't qualify, are the food one, the feast your eyes on this. I don't like food related prompts. Older protagonist is another one that I might swap out, just because like I don't mind an older protagonist, but I have struggled to find books that are within the fantasy, science fiction, horror realm with older protagonists that I want to read. First Contact is another one that I might switch out if I don't end up liking The Shadows Tomorrow. Also, like the duology part 2 might also be in danger of being swapped out, because yeah, we'll see if I find a duology that I want to finish. And a book that I would like to swap in somehow is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, because I've been wanting to read this for the longest time, and there have been like time travel prompts on previous boards, so I could definitely swap this in on that. Wish me luck on this challenge, and let me know in the comments if you are participating as well, which prompt is your favorite or least favorite, or which book you're most looking forward to, or if you have any recommendations for me on the prompts that I am struggling with a bit. Like I said, I will also leave a link to a bunch of other creators who have posted their TBR videos for our fantasy, and I will leave a link to a playlist with all of them as well. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.